A problem with the Southern strategy is that it assumes that the switch happened in the 60s with the political strategies of the time when in reality it happened in the 20s. The Southern strategy, if anything, was just the solidification of a process already in place.
There is certainly debate among historians and political scientists about the origins and development of the Southern strategy and when it began. Some argue that it can be traced back to the 1920s, when the Republican Party started to appeal to white Southern voters by adopting more conservative positions on issues such as race, immigration, and religion. Others argue that the strategy was not fully formed until the 1960s, when the Democratic Party embraced civil rights and many white Southern Democrats began to switch to the Republican Party. Regardless of when the Southern strategy began, there is evidence to suggest that it was not a simple, monolithic phenomenon, but rather a complex and multifaceted set of political strategies and tactics that varied over time and across different regions. Some scholars have argued that the Southern strategy was not just about race, but also about issues such as taxes, defense spending, and national security. Others have suggested that the strategy was not just a Republican phenomenon, but was also employed by Democrats in the South and elsewhere. Overall, while the origins and development of the Southern strategy are a subject of ongoing debate, there is general agreement among scholars that race played a significant role in shaping American politics in the 20th century, particularly in the South, and that the Republican Party has been more successful than the Democratic Party in winning the support of white Southern voters in recent decades.
It is more likely, EMO, that the parties didn't really switch purse, but rather the old segregationist Democrats simply died out.
There is a debate among historians and political scientists about whether the two major political parties in the United States switched positions on civil rights and race issues in the mid-20th century. Some argue that the shift was a gradual process that began in the early 20th century, while others contend that it was a more abrupt change that occurred in the 1960s. There is evidence to support both views. While it is true that some segregationist Democrats died out or left the party during the civil rights era, there were also many who remained in the party and continued to hold their views. At the same time, many Republicans who were once supportive of civil rights legislation and policies began to oppose them as the party became more conservative in the 1960s and 1970s. It is also worth noting that the switch did not happen uniformly across the country. In some areas, such as the Deep South, the shift was more dramatic and immediate, while in other regions the changes were more gradual and varied. Overall, while the exact nature and timeline of the party's shift on civil rights and race issues is a topic of ongoing debate, it is clear that significant changes did occur over the course of the 20th century.
Well, I think the switch needs to be defined better because if one defines it alongside the righteous cause myth i.e. that the Republican Party was once the non-racist party that fought the Civil War for the righteous purpose of freeing the slaves, then it isn't true. There have always been racists in the Republican Party?
Yes, that's a good point. The history of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is complex and can't be reduced to a simple switch or reversal of positions. Both parties have evolved and changed over time, and there have always been factions within each party that held different views on issues related to race, civil rights, and social justice. It's important to remember that historical events and political developments are shaped by multiple factors and influences and cannot be attributed to a single cause or explanation.
Republican Lyman Trumbull apparently said, "We, the Republicans, are the white man's party."
Yes, that quote is attributed to Lyman Trumbull, a Republican senator from Illinois in the mid-19th century. Trumbull was a key figure in the Republican Party's efforts to pass the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which abolished slavery. However, he was also known for his opposition to extending voting rights to African Americans and his support for white man's citizenship. While his views on race and the role of government in promoting equality were not unique among Republicans of his time, it is worth noting that there were also many Republicans who fought for civil rights and equality for African Americans during and after Reconstruction.